All right, it's finally time for us to get started. So just bring up whatever web browser that you use, and you just want to go to unity.com. There's always going to be some form of a download Unity button, or you can go up to the products section here. So just click on whichever. I'm going to click download. And now you have a download for Windows option right here, or if you just look here, it shows download the Unity Hub. We're going to talk about this a bit more after they're done installing, but there's basically 3 different programs we're going to be using for Unity. There's the Unity Hub. It allows you to keep track of all your versions of Unity and all your projects all in one spot, as well as download modules and plugins for them. It does a lot of stuff. We're going to cover it a lot once we get to it. I'll give you a run through there. The other part is the Unity editor, and that's where we're actually going to make our games and projects. And there's also the programming environment, which is called an IDE, or Integrated Development Environment. If you're already a programmer and you have preference, you can use any IDE you choose with Unity. But if you've never used one before, Unity will automatically install Visual Studio for us, and that's what we're going to use throughout this course. So for the complete beginners, I highly recommend follow along with Visual Studio. Now, just before we start installing Unity, the one thing you need to do as well is if we scroll back up to the top, if you click on this icon here, you're going to see an option to create a Unity ID. So this is just your login for the Unity website as well as Unity itself. So you just need to create a free account to be able to use it. So just click on this icon, follow the steps to create an account with your username and password and all of your information. And then you're going to use that to log in during the install process. So let's click download for Windows. If you're using Mac or Linux, just click those links. So it's going to download the hub, and then I just need to click to run it. Okay, and like any software, you're going to get the terms, so you just click agree. Pick where you want to install it to. Click install, and now this is going to install the hub for us. Now that that's complete, we can leave Run Unity Hub checked. Let's hit finish. And you may get a notification from Windows Defender. If you're running Windows, you just need to allow that. All right, and now we have Unity Hub open. And now since it's the first time open and we don't actually have a Unity editor installed, it's asking us to install one first. Now you could install it right here, which will install this version. I'm just going to select this skip installation option for now. So just click skip, and I'm going to explain why in a second here. I just want to explain more about versions of Unity. So now this is the hub. It's going to show more details once we have an install. Let's go to the left side here, click install, and then click on the install editor button. Now we get a bit different of a window here than the first one. This is what I wanted to show you. So we get different versions here. The first option you see here is long-term support, LTS. So you're going to see these for every major version of Unity. So for each year, 2020 and 2021, there's going to be an LTS version. What that means is they offer long-term support for that. It's a stable, very solid version. There's not going to be any major changes. There's not going to be any new features added. The only thing you might get is some bug fixes if they find one, but nothing in the engine itself is actually going to change on that version. That's what you want when you're doing a really large project. You don't want to be changing or upgrading the version throughout the project because new bugs can come in, new features can come in that cause old features to not work. You want to have something that's very stable and reliable. Pre-releases is where you can find betas and alphas. And what this means is these are the more untested versions that are currently being worked on. These are going to have all the newest features and a lot of extra stuff in them, but it's not necessarily going to be stable and reliable yet. So if you want to play around and see what's up and coming, this is where you would do it, but you want to make sure you know ahead of time that it's not necessarily going to be stable. So you don't want to make a big project in one of these because things can go wrong very often. Then if you want to find an old version of Unity, so say if you're taking this course years in the future and you want to get the version I'm using to follow along with, that's where you can get it here. If you click on the download archive, it's going to bring up this web page on the Unity site where you can actually go through and you can download a version all the way back to Unity 5, which is many, many years ago. So you can go through and you can find the exact version you want here. Depending when you're taking this course, if it's a long time in the future from when it's created, you might need to go here to find the version I'm using. So what I would recommend is I'm going to use the 2021 LTS version, which again means long-term support. So we know it's going to be very stable. We're not going to have to worry about any weird bugs or anything like that. So let's install this one. So we just click the install button. And now we're going to get this window showing all the different modules we can add. So the first one here is Microsoft Visual Studio Community 2019. That's what we're going to add here. If you're following along in the future and this is a newer version, that's completely fine. Don't worry about that. It's the Unity version that we're worried about. The Microsoft Visual Studio, if that's newer, that's completely fine. So make sure that one's checked. Now, we don't need to install any of these other packages, but I'm just going to briefly explain what we're looking at here. So the quick way to describe this is whatever platform you want to build to, you would install. So here, Android build support would be if I want to add this game onto an Android mobile device. Here is for iOS, tvOS, Linux. You can see we have all the different ones. Mac. WebGL is a common one for building your game to a web page. And we also have different language packs and documentation to download. I'm not going to worry about this one here. You could add this if you want an offline copy of all the Unity documents, but we're going to use it right off the website and I'll show you how to do that. So you don't need to worry about it, but if you want to check this one, you can, and then you get a little offline copy on your computer. Okay, so let's hit continue. Okay, and we just have to agree to the terms here. And now we see the progress bar showing that it's downloading and installing Unity. So depending on your computer and your connection, this is probably going to take quite a while. So just let it run and then we'll carry on. Once the Unity editor is installed, then it's going to move on to Visual Studio. So you'll just get a little prompt from the installer, click continue. Now, depending how your computer's set up and if you used a lot of Microsoft products that require registration, you may or may not be prompted to sign in and register with Microsoft. If that's the case, just register a free account. It's completely free. You don't have to pay for Visual Studio at all. Now you're going to get the pop-up window for the Visual Studio installer. So most of this you don't have to worry about. Visual Studio is used for a tremendous amount of programming. Lots of people use it for various different things, different languages. So you don't need to worry about pretty much anything here. Just scroll down the list a bit until you see gaming, and then you're going to see game development with Unity. We want to make sure this one is checked. Okay, so now that that's checked, just click install, and it's going to complete the installation. Okay, and depending if you had that box checked, it may launch after the installation, and you may see this window. If that's the case, we can just close this. We don't actually need that. And now we can close the installer as well. So now we're back at Unity Hub. And now notice if we go to installs, we have a version installed now, which is 2021.3.19 F1. All right, so that's awesome. Congratulations, you now have Unity installed. So in the next video, we're going to take a look at how to use Unity Hub and what all these features are.